Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Arcane Finger Yoga. I am your favorite Dungeon Master DM Andy, and today I'm going to try not to neglect my fantasy game. I'm going to make tentacles for my tabletop wargames. Today we're going to dip into the sculpting clay. It doesn't take very much to make these tentacles, and they're really cool. And I'm going to start with some oven-baked white Sculpey, and I'm just going to roll out some tentacles. You can get this stuff anywhere, Walmart, Amazon, hobby stores, it's all over the place. I'm just going to roll out the ends smaller than the midsection because I'm going to make two out of this one piece I've rolled out. And now, to hurt the brains of the Magic players all over the world, I'm going to take a brand new foil mountain and cut these two tentacles apart. And now I'm going to take out a magic item from my bag of holding. That's right, toothpicks. I'm going to roll these one more time with toothpicks to create segments in the tentacle arms. Just be gentle when you roll them back and forth. You don't want to push all the way through the tentacle. And that's all it takes to make a really good looking tentacle. I'm going to make several more, but I'm going to fold them around into different shapes. Some curled up. If you roll them just right, you can even curl them to where they can hold a 28mm miniature. Now I'm going to move them over onto a cookie sheet and preheat my oven. You're going to want to bake these at 275 degrees for about 20 minutes. Be sure you let them cool before you pick them up. They get pretty durable after they've been baked, so they're going to work really well as miniatures. From here, I'm going to take each tentacle and I'm going to super glue it to a base. I'm going to use large and small bases here so that I can put 2 or 3 tentacles on the larger base and a single tentacle on the small base. You could also use hot glue here, but I find hot glue doesn't stick to these manufactured bases as well as super glue does. When you're gluing these tentacles down, make sure they're good and flat on the bottom so they'll stand upright. Also, make sure you pay attention to the placement of the tentacles when you're making one with multiple arms. You want to keep the center of the weight in the middle of the base so the tentacle will stand up without falling over. Give these just a couple of minutes to dry really good. You want to make sure that they're solid before you move on to the basing step. I'm going to use the same basing technique I've used in my previous videos, where I use PBA or white glue all over the base, then cover it with sand. The sand will help weight down the model so it'll stand up better. A wet paintbrush can help spread that glue around so that you know you get a good coverage with your sand. Now that your bases are ready, cover them in sand. Once I get these guys covered, I like to pick them up and wipe off the excess sand so that there's none around the ring of the base. Just clean each one up as best you can without messing up the work you've done. Now I'm going to take just a minute and clean up all this sand, get it out of my way, because I'm going to take one of these tentacles and I'm going to add bricks to the basing. I want to make it look like the tentacle has just erupted up through the floor and pushed some of the bricks back. So I'm going to use my hot wire foam table and cut down just a few tiny pieces of foam and make myself a handful of bricks. Here the brick size isn't important. I just had a few slivers of foam left over, so I decided to use those. And here I'm going to heat up the hot glue gun. I'm just going to put on a little glue, stick on a brick. Put on a little more glue, stick on a brick. I really like how these bases are turning out. They're really, really good. Now it's on to prime and paint. I'm going to use black paint and Mod Podge to go over the entire model. Since I used foam on these, I can't use spray paint this time or it'll melt the foam. Plus this Mod Podge mixed with your basing material and the tentacle itself will help create a really, really good bond and strengthen up that model to the base. Feel free to get really liberal here. You want to put on a nice thick coat of Mod Podge. You may even have to put on 2 or 3 coats if you really want these to last a long time. When I'm doing this, I try to make sure I get down in all the cracks between the bricks and the tentacles, the space between the group of tentacles, and make sure you get those segment lines. Those are going to use this dark recess to make them look more like tentacles once we start painting them up with another color. Just take your time while you're doing this and make sure you look at them from top and bottom and every angle. It's easy to miss a spot with these curled up tentacle arms. I decided to make my tentacles red. So I grabbed some red paint, a small paintbrush, and I'm just painting the individual segments of each tentacle. There's like 4 on each one. Try to stay out of the black recess we made with the toothpick earlier. This part's going to take a little while. There's a lot of little segments on each one of these tentacle arms. So you just got to sit back and find a rhythm and paint each one as best you can. Once you get all these little guys painted up like you like them, move on to the base. Colored in all the sand and the bricks. Tried to edge highlight all these bricks as I was painting them in. Just do whatever you want. Just try to make the bases look cool so they stick out a little bit on your game table. Sometimes painting gets a little tedious and starts taking a while, so I turn on YouTube and zone out to other crafting creators and other content that's like this. Gives me new ideas for future projects. And there they are, you guys. Tabletop Tentacles, as made by your favorite Dungeon Master, DM Andy. And always I'm saying, please like and subscribe and keep this channel going with me. Come back next week when I make more stuff for you to play with. The ground trembles and erupts open as giant red tentacles flail about, slapping at the ground at your feet. The grasp of these vicious earth monsters crushing the air out of your companion's lungs as you try to chop down these giant tentacles like trees in a forest. Thanks for hanging out tonight. I'm DM Andy, your favorite Dungeon Master. Hit the like and subscribe.